to the NFL with a game we like to call Overreaction Friday. Graz, you and me on this one.
Okay.
The Raiders should trade the #1 pick in the draft. Is that an overreaction?
Yes, it's an overreaction. The Raiders have plenty of picks. They need a quarterback. There's one quarterback in this draft it seems like that everybody really loves. Stay put. Take Fernando Mendoza. Make your fan base happy. Build around him with Clint Kubiak, the offensive-minded head coach you just hired. Hold on to that pick. Get your quarterback.
I mean, imagine making the trade. And,
Yes.
and then the next question is going to be, so what's the plan at quarterback?
Right.
Which has been a question for the Raiders for a couple decades.
For quite a while now, yes.
All right, #2. The Vikings should bring back Kirk Cousins. Is that an overreaction?
No, I don't think it is. The Vikings need to bring in someone to at least provide competition for J.J. McCarthy after the disappointing season he had. You bring in Cousins, who's been there, who likes it there, who probably didn't want to leave the organization in the first place. If he beats out J.J. McCarthy, then he beats out J.J. McCarthy and you have somebody who can play. If he doesn't, he's probably a good guy to have around as a mentor for J.J.
Oh, at least someone could be getting the ball to Justin Jefferson. That is a problem they absolutely have to solve based on what we saw last year. All right, #3, Nick Sirianni enters the 2026 season on the hot seat. Is that an overreaction?
I'm going to go with no. I don't think it's an overreaction. I think you can only fire so many assistant coaches before the focus starts to turn to the head coach. And they've been in this pattern where the offensive coordinator does well, he gets hired as a head coach, they promote somebody else, and they have a tough year, and then they bring in, so they went a different direction with offensive coordinator this time. Young guy, untested, Sean Mannion. We'll see if that works. If it doesn't, if this offense doesn't get off the ground to a greater extent than it did last year, I do think we're going to start hearing those things.
The wildest situation.
I know.
Every other year they're in the Super Bowl, and then every other year the quarterback's on the hot seat, the coach is on the hot seat.
It's Philadelphia, man.
Only in Philadelphia. Speaking of which, Jason Kelce, former Eagles center, was asked that very question yesterday about Sirianni on the hot seat. Here's what he said.
I wouldn't say going into the season that Nick Sirianni's on the hot seat. I wouldn't make that statement. But if things don't go well, it wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles are like, listen, we want to abort and try something new because that's the way this thing is going in the league.
All right, Bart, let's start with you. What question do you have about Nick Sirianni heading into the season?
Well, when you talk about being on the hot seat, which everybody's on the hot seat in Philadelphia, I wonder if he's going to take control and take the narrative, because that's, if you look at the trend in the NFL, is all about fracking and guys trying to do exactly what they see as successful. We see McDonald, making sure that he takes over the side of the ball in which he's best at. We look at all the new coaches that are hired. You look at Joe Brady, is he going to call plays? You look at Todd Bowles, Aaron Glenn. You look at Robert Saleh, Sean McVay, Brian Schottenheimer. You look at LaFleur. It seems like if you're going to go down, then you need to go down taking control of what you, because what happens is you bring in an offense coordinator, he becomes good. If he does a great job, he gets hired as a head coach. So why not just take control of it as a play calling head coach? That way you can ensure that you have continuity and consistency at the position.
Speaking of continuity, I'm missing this one, guys. Been to the Super Bowl twice, won a championship. 40% of the NFL change head coach. 40%.
Yes.
The teams that have mental toughness have a built-in sustainable advantage when they don't have all the turnover that you just alluded to. Like, continuity matters. He's done a great job. Has it been perfect? No, but before you let him walk out the door, guys, who are you going to get that's going to have a better record?
He did the same thing to Doug Peterson.
3 years. He got 3 years after winning the franchise's first Super Bowl, and then he was out on his rear end. So, look, it can be unforgiving there. It can be difficult there. To Jason Kelce's point, it may not make sense right now sitting here in the offseason, but you get to week 8, 9, 10, and the offense still doesn't look good, I think there's going to be some chatter.
Especially if Dallas is on the rise and the Giants are on the rise.
Yeah.
The Eagles have been able to beat up on Big Blue for a while.
Sure.
And they start bouncing back, that's going to be a big issue.
And he's fired his coordinators before, so you run out of people to fire. At some point, you got to point the finger at yourself, and they have a high bar there. It's
a production business, right?
Yeah.
Like winning the division, doesn't that matter?
Sean McDermott just got fired. He's in the playoffs literally every single year.
But that was 9 years.
I understand.
And I don't think that was a good decision either.
I agree.
All my point is, if he walks out the door, look at his record and who you're going to bring in that's going to surpass it.
Yeah, the question wasn't should he be on the hot seat.
Right.
Yeah.
It could just happen, and the
resounding
Eagles have shown us that it can happen that quickly.
So much talk about A.J. Brown and the wide receiver position in Philadelphia, but there are other positional groups we should be looking at as well.
Oh, yeah, well, the offensive line. I think that's the key question, because Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach, was there for 13 years. He's not there anymore. these guys have grown up in that program, a Jeff Stoutland-directed program that develops offensive linemen at a high level in Philadelphia. They're going to have to replace him, and it's not going to be easy. And then you look, Lane Johnson probably getting toward the end of his career. Is it possible he retires? Landon Dickerson, even though he's only 27, has been making noise about possibly retiring. So they need to make sure and stay on top of that, which is something that Howie Roseman does well, but it's going to be even more important as they enter this era of transition.
Offensive line, such an undervalued position. It took until this year to finally create an award for the position. You lose a coach like that. Like, how big a blow is that to the offense?
I mean, it's the voice. It's the steady and calming voice on the sidelines when you need answers. And that's what players always need. When you come to the sideline, you're having adversity. Who can give me the answers of what's going on and how do I correct it? And, when we talk about the offensive line, I think something else that they're going to have to address, especially because Phillips is going to become a free agent. They really struggled to really get to the passer as well. They have tremendous corners, tremendous defense, but they didn't get to the passer at the rate that we thought they could get to the passer at. And I think they're going to have to address that position as well.
You've been in the position before where you have to look to address coaches, address assistant coaches. How are the Eagles going about this, in your opinion? Is this going to be as big of a problem as some think it is?
I don't think so. Look, they brought in Chris Cooper, not a household name, but he's a solid offensive line coach. To Graz's point about the offensive line, it hasn't been ideal, but to me, you draft another guy, maybe Landon Dickerson retires, you squeeze one more year out of Lane Johnson. Not ideal, but I got to tell you guys, when you speak to people around the league, you look at rosters, even though that offensive line isn't where it once was, most teams would say, wow, I'd rather have their line than my line.
Yeah, but it clearly slowed down Saquon Barkley. He wasn't the same player, and it's because he wasn't able to hit the line and get 4 or 5 yards before getting touched.
I want to get some thoughts on this. Yesterday, Jeremy Fowler was on the show. He intimated that Philadelphia could look to the draft for the quarterback position. Not in the first round, but maybe day 2. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think more likely, let's look for an extension for Tanner McKee, somewhat of an underknown backup, but he's going into the last year of his deal, played at Stanford. They like him. He's played well at different points, be it preseason or some spot opportunities. So I think there's a better chance that they try to extend him than maybe draft somebody else. He would have a marketplace. Look, this year we know there's so many quarterbacks, teams that need quarterbacks. There would be a market for him, but I'd be surprised if he left that building.
Philly going for the trifecta. Coach on the hot seat, wide receiver drama, and then let's go ahead and bring in another quarterback to really up the ante for the summer. Phil's better win a lot of games so people can turn their attention in another direction. Coming up, the new...
Get Josh Allen a number 1 wide receiver again. If the Eagles are going to move A.J. Brown, send him to the Buffalo Bills. He would fit what they need. It would only cost them $29 million this year, so a little bit of a bargain for a number 1 wide receiver these days. But, yeah, I would like to see A.J. Brown catching passes from Josh Allen if he wants out of Philly.
Bart Scott, do we like the possibility of A.J. Brown in Buffalo?
No, I absolutely do. I think you have to have a number 1 sitting there with Buffalo as well. You have to get Josh Allen. You got to be all in. To do that, you got to give him a true number 1.
All right, let's keep it there with you. Bart Scott, number 2, Fired Up Friday. What are you fired up to see happen this offseason?
I am fired up. Where's my camera? Which one is? I'm fired up about Max Crosby.
Give them all the cameras.
I'm fired up about Max Crosby potentially going to the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh. They have to do something big. They need a pass rush. They brought in Mentor for a reason to try and get back to the brand of what the Baltimore Ravens has always been about. All this offensive stuff through Lamar Jackson. When this team has won its 2 Super Bowls, it's been on the backs of a great defense. You got to get that done. Put him next to Meta BK, who's coming back off an injury, next to Travis Jones. Now you have a formidable front, and you can win that division.
Mike T, is that a call Baltimore should be making?
Absolutely, and not hang up until it's done. Remarkably, Max Crosby is only 28 years old. He had 10 sacks last year. As Bart alluded to, Joe, they really struggle rushing the passer. 31st in sack per drop back, which is really terrible for where they've been. And when you think about Ode Owafe being traded to the Chargers, they desperately need somebody like Max Crosby.
2 teams that have been linked to Crosby from the beginning, the Cowboys and the Bears. The Ravens, though, do you think they could be in the mix here?
The Ravens have always been a team that's been hesitant to trade picks for players and veteran player deals, but they've backed off of that a little bit in recent years. It would fill a need. I think with Jesse Minter coming in as the head coach, they need to identify what his priorities are for the guys he wants on that defense. Max Crosby would help anybody. Throw the Patriots into that mix. Like, if he's available, a lot of teams are going to line up. Obviously, it's something Baltimore could use. They haven't spent high-end resources on edge rushers in recent years. Maybe it's time for that to change.
Back to Fired Up Friday. Mike T, what are you fired up to see this offseason?
I am fired up for the Kansas City Chiefs to draft Jeremiah Love. And not just because we're within 24 hours of Valentine's Day, but that certainly doesn't hurt. Field Yates, our esteemed colleague, had this in his mock draft. You know, the Kansas City Chiefs guys got old quickly, and as Hembo pointed out, nobody had less explosive plays from the running back position than the Kansas City Chiefs. This is an ideal fit, running the ball out of the backfield. And again, Patrick Mahomes will be Superman, but not from day one. Go get a young skill player with explosiveness. Draft Jeremiah Love.
Graz, list the priorities for the Chiefs this offseason. Where does running back rank?
It's up there. I don't know that it's at the top. Their whole secondary basically is free agents, so they have to deal with that. But they do need explosive playmakers on that offense and out of the running back position. It's been really since the early days of Kareem Hunt that they've had somebody that can make those kinds of plays from that position.
And they still have Kareem Hunt.
Right.
That was the
That's
problem.
why I said the early days of Kareem. He's still good, but he's not what he was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I wonder when we talk about the value of running backs. Now, I know we see that with Kenneth Walker and what he was able to do a couple years ago with Derrick Henry, but I just wonder if that's too rich of a draft pick to use early on, especially when you may have guys like Breece Hall, who they flirted with last year with trading for a third-round draft pick, and you can keep that down and give Patrick Mahomes also someone who can catch the ball at an elite level and then spend that money on a real number one receiver.
Yeah, but Bart, you look at guys like Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, like true dynamic difference maker, which I think Jeremiah Love will be, really could help Patrick Mahomes come back a little bit more slowly. So I know typically the running back, we don't pay him, but I think this guy's an exception.
But Breece Hall, though, I think offers all that. A guy that's still in his prime, but you can get that, $12 million a year.
Kenneth Walker. I mean, they need to find someone at that position. I agree with Bart about using a first-round pick on him, but none of those teams that drafted those guys you named have won Super Bowls with them. A couple guys had to go elsewhere to even get close.
One of the ways